Well, I don't deal with bitches no more. Well, I don't deal with bitches no more.
Greetings from Castle Goring from Mickey, Aurora, and from me. Well, I hope to have some fun today. Not everything is serious. Some of it is less serious than others. But I'm feeling for a little bit of fun. So, shall we plunge right in and amuse ourselves? Hopefully. The first question is from Angela Reed, who says, "Dear Lady C, I always love your wonderful accessories. So beautiful, so glamorous. Thank you very much. But do you think you should start wearing baseball caps to relate more to the public, a la Megzy baby? I've noticed every time she wants to be in touch with ordinary people, she wears a baseball cap, especially in her staged publicity photos. She wore one again recently to promote the fact she voted by post on her charity Orkiwell website. May I suggest, in order to look so stylish like Megzy, maybe you should wear a baseball cap in pink with Lady C written in diamante crystals across the front. What do you think? Wouldn't that be classy? Capital K. Just like Megzy. And my dear Angela Reed, to be obliging, here we go. It's not quite with my initials or my name emblazoned across it, but do you think it's fun? Do you think I look classy? Mr. DeMille, what do you think? Am I ready for my close-up? Aurora, honey, can you run into the kitchen and get some of that roast chicken that we can nibble on while we have some waffles as well? Naughty, Motty Boo. And now to be a little bit more serious, Anne Winter says, Lady C, I saw you and Phil Dampier last night on GB News with Dan Wooten. You were all great. What I found interesting was the observation how Meghan used her podcast to confuse the public that the B word related solely to bitch, when it also relates to bully where she is concerned. Your comments would be much appreciated. Well, yes. You know, she tried on the podcast to cut out bully and focus it on bitch. The fact of the matter is, she's both a bully and a bitch. And it was a very clever ruse on her part. But she was rumbled roundly by Phil Dampier and Dan Wooten, who both ensured that the word bully got as much of a feature as the word bitch got. You have to actually give credit where it is due. Megzy baby is sharper than two pins where ruses are concerned. And people are on to her because, as Mimi Baird says, she will be pregnant at the coronation to keep the media to herself. Oh, goodness. What God has forgotten woman is going to stuff with cotton? Mickey, honey, please, go get Mutty a moon bump. Let me get in the mood for Megzy baby so that I can sort of rub the moon bump so that she can be primed for the coronation. And Mimi Baird, when do you think she's going to lose the baby? 4 weeks or 6 weeks or 3 days after the coronation, or maybe as she's leaving the church? Do you think it could be then? I mean, is that a possibility? And she's going to fall to her knees and say she doesn't have a baby in her arms. She's not going to sing a lullaby, but she's going to do the way Julia Roberts does it. Yes, it's so cute. Just so modest. Let us wait and see what happens. I mean, you know, these jokers are a real joke. Adelaide Leslie says, Mary Shelley wrote Frankenstein about a created monster. You are living in Mary Shelley's old house and have created a monster in Meghan. Coincidence or what? Adelaide Leslie, interesting observation. And interesting way you have put it. I have created nothing. Mary Shelley created, out of her own imagination, Frankenstein's monster. I have created nothing. I have faithfully portrayed the creature known as Meghan Markle. If she has emerged as a monster, that is entirely due to her character, which I have photographed, figuratively speaking. And, you know, as Heraclitus says, character is destiny. Once you get somebody's character down pat, you have their destiny down pat too. You don't have to be a fortune teller. You simply have to be an accurate portraitist and accurately capture the true character of the person. The fact that I have done so doesn't mean I have created anything. I have created nothing. I have simply written an accurate account of the woman's character. And as people keep on pointing out to me, everything I have said in that book is foreshadowed by subsequent events. Foreshadows subsequent events. Well, that's just perceptiveness. That's just accuracy. It's not creativity. Albert Durow says, Hello, Lady C. I wonder if it is possible to live a life telling everybody, even yourself, so many lies. It's very possible. I've seen it time and again. Do you think Meghan believed that her son was at risk in South Africa? Oh dear. I have to answer that. Do we believe that pigs fly? I don't think so. But if it's convenient to say there's a pig coming into land, well, some people are going to say they're going to embrace that concept to their bosom and faithfully swear that it is true. Do you think Meghan believed that her son was at risk in South Africa and she had to continue with her royal duties, or knew exactly what the truth was, that the truth was something completely different? Could she lie then, or lie to herself about, for example, her father being abusive to her in the past, so she can explain herself not visiting him at the hospital, for example? Could she try to twist the truth, blaming Harry for all the wrongdoings? That's a very good point. Thank you for your sense of humor and your brilliant jokes. Love your videos. Thank you. Well, anybody who is so wildly inconsistent, and I'm going to be very careful what I say here, in the retelling of information and its retailing, and in a recounting purported facts when often it is noticeably fictional. You know, there are two schools of thought: that people who lie believe their lies. My observation, having spent a lifetime around really great liars, is that they always know when they are lying, as long as they are not psychotic. When you are psychotic, you have a distorted concept of reality, and you can't snap in and out of it. But when you are a liar, you can pick and choose. It's elective. In my opinion, people of that nature know they are lying. It's just that the lie is a convenient tool to get them from A to C on the journey of whatever journey they're on. I cannot believe that Meghan Markle could believe that her father was abusive to her. Not knowing what I know about Meghan Markle's upbringing from a variety of people, some of whom have known her literally all her life, others who have known her since she was very young and were closely involved with her development. No, I think it was, if what I was told did come indeed via Harry from Meghan about her relationship with her father, there is no doubt in my mind that it is as manufactured as this computer sitting in front of me. Total artifice. She cannot believe it. You cannot believe a self-serving lie just because it suits you to. You may repeat it so often that it bears the familiarity of truthfulness, but that doesn't mean that you can't distinguish between the truth and a lie. And I think it's important to bear this in mind, because there lies responsibility, and there lies, if somebody wishes to alter their character, the route through which they will be able to alter it. Yes, in my opinion, people like my mother and Meghan, whenever they take out those needles and start to embroider, they know exactly what they're doing. Diana says, Lady C, is the latest issue of The Crown, episode 3, referring to your book as the conversations about Andrew Morton's book in the planning comes up? Did yours come out before Morton's? Netflix must have it in for you, as they let the actors say there's a tedious book coming out supported by Charles and friends. Love, Diana. Yes, my book came out months before Morton's book. And Morton's publisher knew that my book was coming out and knew what the outline of my book was, because I had been to him about it. Yes, they knew, but they needed to wait until my book was absolutely fully out to see what it actually said, because they couldn't take the chance of just going off an outline. The only book that they can be referring to is Diana in Private, The Princess Nobody Knows, which was a worldwide bestseller before the Morton book came out. I'm going to read something that Lynn Barber, who is a very eminent journalist, wrote in the Sunday Times magazine on the 15th of April 2012. Quotes start now. I am always a bit reluctant to dismiss Lady Collins' assertions since her Princess Diana book. In 1992, she published Diana in Private, which said, among other things, that the princess suffered from bulimia, had had an affair with James Hewitt, and was at war with her husband. How ridiculous! The whole world chorused. And who was this frightful woman making these ludicrous claims? And then a few months later, along came Andrew Morton making the same claims, and gradually the world learned that they were all true. And it was Lady Colleen, not Morton, who first put them in print. Now, Lynn Barber is a far more eminent journalist than any of the people who are involved with the Crown. Let me just make that point for what it's worth. Why do they do it? Well, first of all, I speak the truth. The Crown is not about the truth. It is about pushing a somewhat anti-royalist agenda at the expense of the royal family. Peter Morgan is not pro-royalist. He also has a massive chip on his shoulder because his wife was a member of the Schwarzenberg family. They're proper aristocracy. Robert Lacey, pathetic. Pathetic. The reality is, the Morton book would never have been written but for me, because I'm the person who gave Diana the idea of doing an authorized biography by me, which would be a fundraiser for 3 of my charities, which were 3 of her charities. And once I had been into the palace to green light the whole thing, which she had helped to organize incidentally, she then decided to use my book as a get out of jail card. Where things fell asunder was she changed her story in the middle of the writing of the book. Now, you can't say you went to the North Pole on the 5th of May on Tuesday, and on Thursday you say, no, you went to the South Pole. So I knew something was afoot. And it took no great deal of genius to figure out what was afoot and why it was afoot. She equally understood when I pulled out, because I'm the one who pulled out. She went to Morton, but they needed to wait for my book to see what my book said, to see what they had to counter. And what is really interesting is Morton's posthumous biography of Diana bears more resemblance to my first Diana book than his own Diana, her untrue story bears. Why does this sort of thing happen? Well, let me put it this way. If you have integrity, you don't ignore the truth. And you don't discredit those who you know have actually come before you and trumped you. You don't do it if you have integrity. And if you do it, it tells me you have no integrity. Now, it's never been a matter of great surprise to me that a lot of the media, and I include the press as well as other forms of the media, have absolutely no integrity. Long before I became a writer, they were my adversaries. They knowingly lied about me and continue to do so for decades, even after they had incontrovertible proof that they were lying about me. Does it surprise me that other lies persist to this day? No, and I'll tell you better. Does it bother me? Not particularly. Robert Lacey and Peter Morgan can invent any dialogue and any scenario that they wish to try to write out the fact that Diana in private trumped Andrew Morton's book by several months, and I'm the one who revealed all the major facts about Diana, and Morton revealed none. They can say whatever they want. In fact, Andrew Morton on the Sally Jesse Raphael show in, whether it was 92, 93, 94, I don't remember, so long ago. Andrew Morton, James Whittaker, and I were on the show. And Andrew, to give him his due, was far more civilized than James Whittaker, who disgustingly barracked me the whole time. Come on, Lady Colin, tell me about your personal life. Tell me about your personal life. I mean, just disgusting behavior. But Andrew on that show, and I like Andrew Morton, by the way, and I've always been delighted that he had the success that he did. And I'm not decrying him for having made a success and run with the ball. She gave him the information. He faithfully recounted it. What I am decrying him for is in the Sally Jesse Raphael show, having the unmitigated gall to tell me that I was copying him, and I had to point out to him that I couldn't copy him when my book came out long before his. What can I tell you? It doesn't bother me, not particularly. They can tell any lie they want. They can be as Meganian and as Markellian and as Morganian as they like. The fact of the matter is, what I have written is there in black and white. The date of publication is fixed in time. Everything that I have trumped them with exists. They can lie and denigrate and ignore and discard and pretend it doesn't exist till they're blue in the face. It does exist. They're not belittling me. They're simply showing themselves up, or they're trying to belittle me. But in doing so, they're showing themselves to have very little understanding of the truth, very little respect for their audience, and absolutely no integrity whatsoever. I mean, to actually go to the extent of being bitchy about somebody who had beaten you to the post, so to speak. Just pathetic, pathetic. I mean, just pathetic. Just more than that I can't say, you know. Does it bother me? Not particularly. It more amuses me in a very sort of despicable way, because I despise people like that, because they don't have a character that I regard as admirable. That's why I despise them. I look down on them from the Olympian heights of integrity, and I see them as pathetic, and that is what they are. Lulu loves to plan says, the person throwing eggs was at the king, obviously, was an activist for Just Stop Oil, which makes him look even more stupid considering King Charles has been doing everything he can and has been at the forefront of climate change. He certainly has. And I have read this out, Lulu loves to plan, because this again shows how totally ludicrous and illogical and stupid and, may I say, unfair people are when they want to hop on their hobby horse, irrespective of whether somebody deserves it or not, irrespective of justice, irrespective of decency, irrespective of any of the finer qualities in life that make us worth knowing. Ms. Tex says, do all women of status in the UK have a multi-strand pearl choker with a fabulous clasp? I love this piece on you. Miss Tex, yes. We all have chokers. Chokers are for women what family signet rings are for men. Code. It's code. It's code. Yeah, we all have them. They're very flattering, aren't they? And the beauty of them is, even as you get older, they still look good. So, but I will let you in on a little secret. After a certain age, when you have on a choker, you better hold your head up. Because if you relax too much, the skin dribbles over the top line of the pearls. So it encourages you to stand and sit properly, as indeed does a tiara. You can't slouch when you have on a tiara either. I mean, you just can't. So who knows? Maybe these fashions actually in some ways are good because they encourage you to perform with a degree of dignity. Walter Cook says, hello, Lady C. Thank you for your keen insight, which I value greatly. I would like to hear your thoughts regarding Samantha Markle's banning and subsequent reinstatement on Twitter. Well, I thought banning her was an outrage, but her sister and her sister's mother, according to what I have seen, the reports I have seen, some of which came from a very, very reputable law firm in this country, show that Meghan and her mother were collusive in denigrating Samantha unfairly and untruly. Now, the fact of the matter is that making Samantha out to be something she wasn't was actually very serious from one point of view alone, if none other. Samantha is a trained therapist. You cannot denigrate unfairly the integrity and the sanity of somebody who is in the health industry without depriving them of the possibility of earning the livelihood which they have spent years working towards. Well, she was bounced off Twitter and she was bounced off here, there and everywhere and labelled something she wasn't. And certainly the Times, Roya Nika, who ran with the story and knows that the story is untrue, still has not apologized or issued, insofar as I am aware, a rebuttal. Sorry, I think that is appalling conduct. When you've done somebody wrong, and you know you have, put your hands up. I used to say to my children, when you discover you've done something wrong, be the first person to put your hands up and say, sorry, mea culpa. Well, Samantha's back on Twitter. Elon Musk has taken over Twitter. I have to say the disarray in the company is very concerning. And I only hope that the object of the exercise has not been for those who were in Twitter before to destroy Twitter, because I'm all in favor of Elon Musk's agenda, which is to make Twitter a platform where people can espouse differing ideas. A debate isn't I say and you agree. A debate is I say and you disagree. That's what a debate is. And there is no reason why Twitter and all of these platforms should not have a robust debate. I'm very happy to entertain odious thoughts from other people, as long as they are presented in a civilized and respectful manner. You can be as odious as you want in terms of your concept, but your execution, as far as I'm concerned, has to be civil. It makes no plan to have no sense, to have a plan whereby everybody has to be on the same page. That's stupid. Let's hope that Twitter flourishes. Although I can see that if those who were tweeting before, like tweets, they obviously don't know what a tweet is because some of them are performing exactly like tweets. Let's see. Coffee Cup says, only because you're so careful about language will I mention that the California town you mention, OJAI, is pronounced Ojai. Thank you. Many people pointed that out to me, and I'm very grateful for having had it pointed out. And yes, what you're presenting here, as in all your books, is a human morality tale. That's the fascination of the Harry and Meghan tale. And for that matter, Andrew's story. Don't you think Had he been even a slightly more likeable, slightly less arrogant man, the nation would have rallied around him. There's an important pragmatic lesson here about generosity of spirit and about humility. Coffee cup? I think you have a point. I want to attribute responsibility where it lies. To an extent, the British press go for the fairy on the top of the Christmas tree and the bad fairies on the Christmas tree itself. So there's usually only one or two good fairies at the top of the Christmas tree. Andrew has, over the years, sometimes because of his own personality and sometimes not, become a bad fairy. Some of it has been very unjust, some of it has been just. Even if somebody is arrogant and objectionable, they still deserve justice. This is where true decency comes in, true morality, true standards. And I would submit that much of the media lack all of those qualities. You know, I've said it before and I'm going to say it again. Harry and Meghan have a point where the media are concerned. They've simply forgotten the part they play in it as well. But they have had a far better press than Andrew has had. Although Andrew's a far more agreeable and loyal person than either Harry or Meghan is. But yes, I think had he been more hail fellow well met, the way he actually appeared to be in his bachelorhood, and the way Harry appeared to be in his bachelorhood, he would have had a better time of it. But would he have not had a bad time of it? Who knows? Because the truth is, the press are vulgar sensationalists who really would sooner sacrifice somebody's life than the profit they will make from a sensationalistic tale that they know is largely untrue or totally untrue. And I speak from personal experience. I.K. Reiki says, Lady C, I'm frankly outraged at the treatment Prince Andrew has been subjected to. Virginia Giuffre is a proven liar. And while I appreciate that the King and the Prince of Wales need to protect the monarchy, I do not agree that Prince Andrew needs to be thrown under the bus in order to achieve that end. In my opinion, anybody with a brain can see that she targeted Prince Andrew and has taken advantage of the royal family in order to receive a settlement out of him. Do you think that Prince Andrew will ever be exonerated in the eyes of the British public? I certainly hope so. Americans don't know that much about him, and by that I mean we don't hate him for being kind of a jerk, but we can certainly smell a rat in this situation. Very good question, and I'm going to answer it by linking it to my personal experience. Just as how Peter Morgan and Robert Lacey and his crew in the crowd have quite deliberately trashed my contribution to the Diana scenario, even though they know it's untrue and unfair of them to do so. They've done it. Once the press set you up, they will run with that ball no matter what. And if they can't run with it, they are niggardly to the nth degree in their praise. It also happens on Wikipedia. Many people, me included, anything positive is taken down. Anything negative is kept up. You need to be very careful what you believe when you read Wikipedia or the press. Most of it is slanted, and it does not behoove you to ever suspend your acute judgment. So no, I think, regrettably, from Prince Andrew's point of view, he's toast, because he's never going to get a fair hearing. I've never been given a fair hearing, and I'm not complaining about it. I'm just making a statement of fact. I have flourished despite it. He's not. He's been destroyed. So I'm able to say it doesn't really matter that much to me. I mean, if something terrible happens, yes, I do. It does matter. For instance, when I am defamed unfairly, as I was recently 3 years ago, by the Mirror, yes, that does matter. And I'll fight that tooth and nail to the death. But otherwise, you know, there is a world that exists above and beyond the public world in terms of being a public figure. And media attention, media what? There's a world way above it that people are very understanding of the fact that the media is a rag, by and large, a dirty rag, best kept well away from civilized discourse. Susan Gallen says, someone should tell Miss Jufra not to get on the wrong side of the Clintons. Susan Gallen, she's been told. Why do you think she's behaving the way she's behaving? Why do you think she withdrew her comments about President Clinton? They've not been repeated now for a very long time. Why do you think she has settled her case against Alan Dershowitz? And why do you think David Boys backed her up gratis, pro bono, against Prince Andrew? She knew which money tree to pick from and what to avoid in case she got Arkansided. Vicky Groom says, Dr. Thomas Sowell had an interview where he explained the number of enslaved white European people captured by the Barbary pirates exceeded the number of all the black slaves in the USA. Gobsmacked. And Linda Smith says, we still have slavery in Britain. The whole population slaving to keep all these immigrants in food and clothes in luxury hotels. The world is going backwards and we're not allowed to say so. Linda Smith, I'm going to say something that somebody said to me, a workman who was here installing a huge looking glass that had broken. And he said, and this is an English working class guy, and he said to me, he said, you know, something's fundamentally wrong in this country. He said, I believe in working and I'm working. He said, and I've never asked for the dole, etc. He said, but he said, a friend of mine has a house that he's bought, sacrificed to pay off the mortgage, and would like to leave to his children. But the likelihood he's not going to leave it to his children, because when he gets old and infirm, he's going to have to sell the house to pay for his medical bills. While there's a family in the house immediately beside his, which is identical to his house. They have never worked for several generations. They're all on benefits. Their children and grandchildren will inherit that house. He said there's something really wrong in this country when people work and want to work and don't get the reward. But who gets the reward? The people who don't work. I hand that on for what it's worth. And you say it's a form of slavery? Well, it could well be interpreted as being a form of slavery. That people have to work so that other people don't have to work. And Susan Sweeney says, and I'm going to cover the whole slavery thing and now by wrapping this up. Dear Lady C, I'm so glad you touched upon the slave issue. I have listened to Thomas Sowell many times, and it opened my eyes to a history I was never taught at school. You should have gone to school in Jamaica, darling, when I did. You were taught the whole truth. If it was, I believe it would question the narrative that racism and racial tension exists to the extent we are led to believe. Why are educational bodies in the world ignoring the plain truth about slavery? I appreciate your thoughts on this never discussed subject. Well, you make a very good point that I'm going to pick up here before I go into the rest of it. Racial tensions and racism exist because people who are opportunistic choose to use it for their advantage and to the detriment of those who do not misuse it. You know, evil is often a lot more proactive initially than good. Mizan 290 says, the following information comes from this African slave trade by Basil Davidson. When Europeans first entered into trade with Africa, they sought items such as gold, ivory, pepper, wrought iron, and tortoiseshell. Spain and Portugal had a limited interest in buying slaves. The other European countries had none. To quote Davidson, Captain Towson made 3 journeys between 1555 and 1557, returning with various goods but no slaves. Rutter did the same in 1562. Even as late as 1623, an English captain called Jobson could describe how he was offered slaves on the coast but refused them. A Mandinka trader offered me certain young black women who were standing by themselves, which he told me were slaves, brought for me to buy. I made answer, we are a people who did not deal in any such commodities, neither did we buy or sell one another, or of any who have our own shapes, pages 60 and 61. This does not negate the horror of the transatlantic slave trade, but it does show that Europeans originally started trade with Africa with a different mindset. Also note that European colonization of Africa did not occur until decades after the collapse of the slave trade. All of which is absolutely correct. And I'm reading these out because I want to share the knowledge of people who have cared enough to contribute to this conversation. D for Disdain says, slavery was an institution in Africa from the north to the south. Every tribe encountered by the Portuguese, the first Europeans in Black Africa, had slaves of their own. Some European businessmen took advantage of such cultural doings and slavery increased. Some tribes ended up being totally dependent on that kind of business, trading slaves for the so much coveted goods from Europe, namely fabrics, dry figs, that people adored and still do, flour, hats, knives, the favorite machete still is, agricultural tools, hammers, nails, pots and pans, needles and thread, carpentry tools, and so many other things that they didn't have. Also, the beloved glass beads with which they made beautiful complex jewelry, and they are still doing. I'm not saying it was right, it was wrong for the Europeans that also knew slavery in the past until the 1300s to have participated and encouraged. Good story to read is in Google about Queen Nzinga, or Ginger as the Portuguese called her. And I'm going to say a little bit about her because she is a very interesting character. She was a queen. She reigned for 37 years. She was the daughter of a slave and a king. Right there, the whole slavery business has to be put to bed. She reigned for 37 years in two kingdoms which are now a part of Angola, fought the Portuguese for decades, had alliances with the Dutch. She was an extraordinary woman. The point being that all these societies were slave societies. All of them. So I hope that puts to bed some of this discussion about slavery, because, you know, one race cannot say that another race owes it reparations when it also owes reparations to the other race. This is all very divisive, and it also cuts to the very concept of responsibility. I'm not responsible for what my great-grandparents did, nor are you. You're not responsible for what your husband or wife does. You're not responsible for what your child does after a certain age. How then can we be responsible for things that happened hundreds of years ago? Nalita Shireta says, Dear Lady C, a very simple question. I understand that the rumors of a separation and possible divorce could well be a PR production. Certainly could. But I have seen numerous videos where Harry looked absolutely miserable and unhappy. Do you think that is an act as well? If so, he is indeed a much better actor than she is an actress. And if he truly is that miserable, why stay? No, I don't believe that it's an act. I don't think he's that good an actor, although I think he's a far better actor than she's an actress. And why stay? There's a payoff. Misery loves company. There's a payoff. If they didn't have a tremendous amount in common, we would not have been treated to the spectacle that we have been treated to. The Truman Show updated into the Markellian wonder of the world. And on that note, I will say, thank you very much for listening. I hope this has been of some interest to you. If it has, please like, share, subscribe, press the notification bell, and remember, please keep the questions and comments coming in. This cannot be done without you. Thank you so much. God bless and goodbye.